Hi, folks. Today we are going to look at Substack surveys, which I have come to grow and love. I think that before Substack surveys existed, I was just very in the Google form survey world. So I like simplicity. So I have looked at the other ones, SurveyMonkey and Typeform. I have used them for clients, but I think because I learned on Google Forms and it's so easy, it was actually really nice to have the Substack survey option. So I've done a few, both for clients and for myself. So I'm going to share where you find them and some tips around how to use them. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And we are just in the back office of Sparkle on Substack here. So you can see that I've got three live at the moment. Um, so I've got the Substack Members Survey 2025. I've got a Barriers to Creation one that I created to try and understand people's blocks. And then I've got this one, which is for my mastermind, which helps people understand their publishing archetype. So where you want to be is in stats. And then when you're in stats, you click along to the very end here and you go surveys. So you can create a new survey if you want to, if you're ready. My top tip about surveys is to not make them too long, especially in my world. Like people are time poor, so I know that about my audience. They haven't got time to be filling in 30 and 40-page surveys. That said, if a survey is heavily incentivized, as in like if people can win money or something that they feel is of value, then they might be likely to fill that in. But you should be able to get to the crux of the questions that you want to ask to more deeply understand your audience. And then if there's anything that's going to help you as a Substack writer or publisher, then that should be able to be weaved in as well. So I keep them really short. I always have done the surveys that I worked on in the back office for commissioners earlier in my career that were really, really long. People get tired, and then when people get tired and fatigued, they tend to like have a bit of a rant. So, there is that bit as well where it's like people can breeze through. That feels like a nice experience. But if you think that your audience have more time and would be more willing to fill in more questions, then obviously go ahead. So in the Sparkle members survey, I didn't ask for their email address or name in this survey because I wanted it to be anonymous. If you do want to ask for that and you want people to identify themselves, then you would ask that in the first question because Substack doesn't let you see who's filled it in. So it'll only let you see the number of responses, so 16. So I didn't want a ton of people filling in this survey. I just needed a snapshot from my most engaged people because they're the ones that have the strongest opinions on how they want to see the membership evolve and change. Other people, I've got such a good handle on my audience. Other people email me and they tell me this is where I'm stuck, this is where I'm confused. But mine is a membership, right? So it's like a very different experience to somebody just receiving my writing every week. And that's why these questions are developed to be the way that they are. So I'll just go through it. So what you value most about the membership, and I've given them a multiple choice there. If they could change anything about the membership, that gives them a little bit of autonomy, and gets them to think about what they actually would want that's different. Guest teachers, I allocate a budget and I, in the past, have chosen the people that I think would be a really good fit, but I was really interested to see if anyone had opinions on that. This one, do you feel seen and taken care of here? It's a single choice, it's a yes or a no. So one person said no, and then this was my mistake because I should have asked for at least their Substack URL so I could get in touch and be like, what do you need? But obviously they've said no. And sometimes people press the wrong thing. So it could be a mistake. It could be that they genuinely feel overwhelmed or confused, which I get that a lot. Not necessarily about my space, but just Substack in general. Um, so what areas you need help and support with as we look into 2026? If you had to pick one thing to improve on your Substack, what would it be and how could I help? So like positioning myself as the expert and asking how can I help? Are you happy with creating here on Substack? What has surprised and delighted you about Sparkle on Substack? What do you love more generally about Substack as a whole? So I'm getting them to really think about their connection to the platform outside of my teaching here, which is really helpful to me to take a temperature check because I've been here for so long. So it's really nice to hear that from other people. And then always add, what else would you like to add? And that's a text response. So obviously they've got free choice to fill that in. And so when you go into the responses, it gives you a little breakdown of the percentage. So this is really helpful. You can download this. So you can download the responses and feed it to an AI of your choice and ask the AI to summarize it for you. I do think that the more data you get, the harder it is, or maybe it's just me and I find data really difficult to sort of condense down. So I think AI can be really good for that, but it always has a positive slant on everything. So it'll always just big you up. Like you've really got to tell it to be critical and you've got to tell it where there are holes in your knowledge and like really help me out, like pull out the negative stuff. Like if you want to get all of that in and understood in your own space. So obviously it gives me the breakdown of percentage here. You can obviously compare this to what you think. About your space if you are doing some one for like a membership. Obviously this is all text. People are saying they're too new to answer the question, which obviously is exactly as I thought. Guest teaching slot, like lovely, lovely responses here. So I've gone through all of these and then decided on some guest teachers for this year. So here it is. So I said, you feel seen and taken care of here. And then obviously one person's put not always. So I would want to speak to them, but I can't because I don't know who it is. So that was my mistake. I wanted to make an anonymous survey because I like to test things, but ordinarily I get them to put their email address or their Substack URL in. So I'll do that next time. And so these are the things that they want more of. One thing, again, this is asking for their responses to think about it. So, people are saying keep it up, like this is what I want, like just keep giving me the reframes. And then people are mostly happy at 6% and 94% happy creating on Substack, which is nice. What a surprise and delighted you see text, and then what do you love about Substack as a whole? And I gave them little prompts for this, and then anything that they want to add, and most of them did. So that goes into a couple of pages there. So if I take you back to surveys, if you're thinking about surveys and joyful growth, what you want to be constantly doing is getting to know your audience on a deeper level. And so when people talk about audience, that can be quite abstract because you're thinking about multiple people. So you could have two separate people with similar views that are just at very different stages in life, and that is audience. You could have somebody that is invited all of their colleagues and friends, and that is audience. Usually, there is a point of connection to either what you write about or teach, or you as a person that everybody resonates with. I definitely have people come into my world that leave straight away and don't resonate. And so, again, that's more complicated in terms of the way people make financial decisions. And I have written about that before. But usually, the swell of audience that stays with us will go on a journey of discovery of us and our writing and our work and our teaching and whatever else it was we're doing on Substack. And then they will be nurtured right through. They will agree on a deeper level more and more and more and more until they're ready to share. If they are reading your stuff and they get repelled for whatever reason, they might give you another chance and then move on, or they might just hit subscription fatigue and move on. So, what you're able to do when you get to know your audience on a deeper level is really hear more about them and what's really going on. Sometimes people are really active in the comments, but I find surveys behind closed doors are a far more varied and interesting take on who is actually prepared to show up and give you their opinion. It's super, super interesting. So, um, yeah, the barriers to creation one was also super interesting in terms of like the blocks people are finding. So I was particularly interested in blocks. So this one is linked a lot. And that's what I wanted to get you to think about today. No matter where you are on your Substack journey, if you can create a really short survey that enables you to get to know your audience on a deeper level, that you check in with every month or two, that just keeps feeding your awareness of what your audience are there for and what they need and want. So that's what we're going to go ahead and create really quickly for you. So because I've spoken about it from a membership point of view, I'm going to speak about it from a writing point of view because I know that lots of you here will be writers. So it's called Reader Survey 4. So we're going to edit the name. So I'll just call it Sparkle Survey and then put in test so I remember what it is when I come back to it. And then we're going to add a question. So the question here, you'll just have to go to edit. And so remember I said we're going to ask them for their email address or Substack URL. So I'll just put there your Substack URL because obviously they're filling it in on Substack, so they will have one. And then so that's text response, and the question is required for them to move on. So if they don't want to identify themselves, they just won't be able to move on with the next question. So new question and then edit. And so we're gonna say when do you tend to read Substack articles? And then we're going to give them multiple choice and we're going to say as soon as they are published, I save for later, I read at weekends. And then you can give them the option for other, tell us at the end. So if you want to think about, okay, like none of those fit with what I actually do and my reading habits, you've got to give them the option to tell you at the end. So we'll save that, and that's good. Um, and then we're going to get into the types of things that you write about. So what is it that you like in my writing? And then we'll give a text response. Yes, the question's required. And then you might want to say, how many Substack publications do you pay for? Because you might just be interested in that, and we can have that, but we can hide it now. Number response, yes. And then we'll say, how much do you spend on Substack subscriptions? Number. Okay, and then we're going to make this the last one. What brought you to Substack? And then text response, and then the last one would be other thoughts. So obviously you'd have to do more than that to get to know them, but you can see the shape of it. So we're trying to take them into a direction of the personal and then the more generic. So if you have a block where you've told yourself, oh, well, people only pay for like maximum 2 Substacks, and then you get 20 responses here and they all pay for 5, then you can let yourself off the hook and be like, oh, okay, like my audience actually pay for multiple Substacks. If they're all saying I don't pay for any, then you know you've got a piece of Substack education to do around the paywall and what that actually is and what people might value behind your paywall. So there's loads of different ways to approach this, but this shape, getting their URL so that you can actually direct message them if you want more information or if you want to jump on a call with them or whatever is good. And then the other thoughts at the end. So you make sure that you are being really open to let them share with you what they want to share. Then you've got this share button. So that is live now. So the share button, you can share via email. And if you press that, it's going to open up an email, or you can copy the link. So if you copy that link, and this is a survey that you want to have out permanently on your Substack, so you could have it in the footer of your email, and you could say something like, I'm really enjoying getting to know my audience. If you have 5 minutes, please could you fill in the survey? I'll be giving away a paid subscription at the end of the year. And just keep it generic like that. And then obviously when you get to the end of 2026 or whatever year you're in, you can go back through and then you'll be able to contact the person. You can use a random number generator to pick who wins. So you could do that, or you could share it straight away in an email. People have to be motivated to fill in a survey. So nobody has 5 minutes, right? Like everybody's busy with life, they're doing their thing. But if you say, if you have 5 minutes to help me to better understand or to help to inform what I'm doing here on Substack and my publishing cadence, and you've got some sort of incentive like they can win something, then that's more likely. If you tell them how many questions it is, it's more likely than that they fill it in. If you remind them multiple times about the fact that you've got a survey, if the survey's got a deadline, these are all ways to help people to fill it in. If you share some snippets from what has already been said, so if you're in week 2 or 3 and you've got some snippets to share, and then that'll fire people up because they want to have their say, they want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard. So that can be really helpful. So obviously, it's put the title in, you can change that, you can do whatever you want, but basically, when they click through to this button, they will be able to fill in that survey. And then I don't get any notifications of whether people have filled it in, but I do have everything turned off for Substack in terms of emails. So I just pop on and just see where things are at. And then with my member survey, like I said, I just needed a handful of responses. So I think it got to 12 and then I pushed it one more time and I was happy with 16. So that was great. So you're very, very welcome to do that. Now, also in the post, I have talked about polls. So just if you don't know how to do it, all you do is go to more, and then you've got your poll there, and then you've got your little edit button there. So you can do anything that you want there. I always set them to forever because if somebody is finding this in the future, it can be really helpful. If you want it to be a time limited thing, then a day isn't really long enough because people are just catching up. So I would say like minimum a week, but I think forever is the better one. So you could pop that in there as well. Okay, so that was everything that I had to share about surveys. Now, remember, I am an audience development geek. So if you're listening to all of this and feeling super overwhelmed and being like, Claire, that's all such a lot, remember, I'm just giving you this as an insight of something to set up and look at long term for your Substack. There's all sorts of ways of getting to know audience. Obviously, we have a natural affinity with some people. We might go live with people, we might be chatting in the DMs, we might follow them on social media. But ultimately, the only way to get to know your audience and how your work is meeting them is to get to know them better. Like you just have to deepen that connection and you have to really understand. Sometimes there's this place of when we're first growing, like I subscribe to somebody and they subscribe to me. So it's like a kindness subscribe. Other times there's a real like mind-blowing name in their subscriptions and you're like wow, like oh, I feel like a bit of imposter syndrome or that feels really huge that that person subscribed. For example, Jenna Kutcher came to Substack recently and subscribed to Sparkle on Substack and I was just like, well, that's big. That's like probably the biggest thing that's ever happened. So that is a really interesting reframe for me because when I'm writing my emails, I'm thinking about my audience as a whole and who I know to be there, but I'm also holding that lightly because people unsubscribe all the time. So I'm holding the core people that I show up for, but then now I've got Jenna Kutcher and I'm like, well, I wonder what Jenna would think of this, because it is interesting to ask yourselves those questions. So Jenna as a person obviously is an archetype, one of my audience archetypes. So one of my audience archetypes is beginners on Substack. Another one is creative expressionists. So the people that like to creatively express, sometimes retired folk or people that don't want to monetize, or maybe they do, but it's like just a passion project or a side hustle. And then entrepreneurs and business owners. I hear from entrepreneurs and business owners the least, unless I'm in a separate program with them. The people that keep me busy inside a Sparkle on Substack are the beginners and the creative expressionists, but that's not all that makes up my audience, right? So learning who is there and what their motivations are is so, so important for you to feel not only safe and for your nervous system to feel okay about publishing and writing, but also for you to get the engagement that we all crave. We want the likes, we want the shares, we want the comments. There are lots of people in our audience that will just always be quiet, and it's no reflection on you and your work. It will be resonating. They are opening emails. It's just about you thinking about things differently and knowing that the people that are motivated to fill in surveys can be really helpful in your audience development journey. I have a whole program on this. It's called Audience Alchemy. There are 2 free classes. I'll link them below if you want to sign up for those. And there's a live program currently running, which you're welcome to be part of, which is all about the depths of audience engagement and audience development. Absolutely love this work. And it's very relatable to Substack because we have this social media element, so there is this space for us to discover who is there and deepen that connection with our audience. So I hope that's been helpful. I know it's a bit of a longer one today, but I just wanted to give you that seed to think about in January, to maybe set something up in the future, but play around with polls to start with if that feels like a nice thing to do. And I'll see you on the next task.